Okay, everybody. Okay. Welcome back to Disorder in the Court with live coverage of Darrell Brooks, the man himself, pro se litigant extraordinaire, who will not be pro se today. He is back in court. It is the Darrell Brooks, the Waukesha Christmas parade murderer. He was convicted on several counts of murder last year, maybe it was a year and a half ago, for literally mowing down several citizens in a Christmas parade. He tried to represent himself, and it became an absolute spectacle. For the members in the chat, I do have a couple, maybe one, maybe two Darrell Brooks custom emojis. I not only watched this the entire trial of Darrell Brooks, I also covered it on this channel and my other channel, Checkmate Humanity. They have not started in court yet. I will start as soon as trial starts. But just to recap, you may recall that on the same day that Darrell Brooks senselessly drove through that parade and killed several citizens, injured many other citizens. Before he did that, and hearsay, before he did that, he had gotten into an argument with his ex-girlfriend, his baby mama. They were in an argument in a parking lot. And this girlfriend, Erica, let me look up her last name. Erica Patterson, mother of his child. He, grounds. That's true, Cheryl. Thank you for pointing that out. He is a sovereign citizen, so it'll be very interesting to see whether he allows for his name to be used, his actual name. He will be represented in court today by counsel. So it will be interesting to see if he allows counsel to address him by his name. But before the parade started, he got into an argument with the mother of his child. She says that he struck her and then ran over her before then driving out of the parking lot and into the parade. She was a witness in that trial, in the Waukesha parade trial. And it was honestly quite harrowing to watch him, the pro se litigant, cross-examine her on the stand. Yeah, it would be nice to know that he's been somehow tampered down in one way, shape, or form. Yep. Waiting on the feed. Hasn't started yet. Just having a little conversation over here. Please remember to hit the thumbs up if you would so kindly. For members, I do have custom emojis that do involve Darrell Brooks. Now, he is quite the spectacle. But I do want to remind you that this is clearly a person who is not mentally well. He is not mentally well. So I try to point out, I want to see if he's improved. Grounds. I want to see if he's improved. I want to see if he's learned anything. I want to see if someone who was clearly not mentally well when we first encountered him in court, if we can see, does he have self-restraint? Has he moved off of this idea of sovereign citizenship? Because it was really, I mean, let's face it, it was really just a way for him to bring in more disruptions into the court, right? We'll see, Chopper. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, even maybe when they haven't shown they deserve it. I mean, he deserves to have that 1,000 years in jail, in prison that he has. He literally mowed down multiple citizens. Justice needs to be had, right? I'm looking at this more like just, out of interest. As a person who likes to watch mental health progress, what just study people's complicated behavior patterns. And I like to watch them in court. And the reason I like to watch people's complicated behavior patterns in court is because in court is where it matters the most. In court is where the stakes are the highest. People are going to be making decisions. Yes, he's in court today. That's why, Cheryl, that's why I'm doing this stream. He will be in court today on a motions hearing about he will be facing trial for, you're welcome, Maxine. He will be facing trial for attempting to run over the mother of his child, for assaulting her. And she testified in his trial for the Waukesha Parade murders. Yeah, a battery charge. So I would hope so, Marcia Kelly. I would certainly hope so, but I don't know. From prison to prison, it's different whether they offer mental health. But if anyone needs mental health in prison, he's on the top of that list. I mean, even though he will never be getting out of prison, he needs a lot of mental health. His let's make sure we are clear on what his sentence is. It is life in prison without the possibility of parole. Wait. I want to make sure I get this. Six life terms. He is sentenced, 1,060 years, 6 life terms, in other words, consecutively, meaning they would be served back to back to back. So after he ends the first life term, he would have to serve a second life term and then a third life term. The man is never leaving prison. So it will good behavior, right? So then you get to the question of, what do you do with a man who will never get out of prison but clearly needs a great deal of mental health help? Well, you probably still do it because he's still a human being and he still needs to live among the prison population. And they probably have a hard time dealing with him even internally in the prison system, right? And he has children and he has family members that he still needs to deal with. And it would be absolutely inhumane to not treat him, even though he's a convicted murderer serving 6 life, 6 life terms. They have not started yet. I wonder if any of that has to do with him and him being disruptive. I wonder if they will tell us any of that. If they will help us understand, okay, we are delayed here, but it is not unusual for them to start these streams, get these streams going a little bit later. They have to get everybody assembled. But why don't we get a little bit more of an update on what's going on here? Yeah, they probably do have to drag him in. I mean, let's hope they don't have to. I saw, a brief clip of him in court a few months ago, and surprisingly, he looked relatively calm, and he was just standing beside his lawyer. Didn't seem like much was going on, in terms of his behavior. So I was surprised by that. What do you all think is going to happen? What do you all think is going to happen today? You know what would be interesting? What would be interesting is maybe to try to get any jail calls that he's had with people. I wonder if those are available to get, because those are subject to FOIA. Marcia says he's just going to yell more. So PKC, he is facing trial for battery of his of the mother of his child, Erica. And Erica testified in the Waukesha Christmas massacre trial. He represented himself and he cross-examined her, and it was probably some of the most intense court moments I've ever seen, because you could tell that this was clearly a toxic, incredibly abusive relationship. And she would rather stick needles in her eye than be sitting here being grilled by him. And he definitely sat there and badgered the heck out of her while she was on the stand. It was really uncomfortable to watch. So I'm going to read right now the latest report I can see here about this particular action. This particular these actions between Erica and Darrell. This is from last year. Okay, these court situations take a long time to play out. So this article from Court TV says the man convicted last year in the Waukesha Christmas parade attack was back in court Thursday. Darrell Brooks appeared before a Milwaukee County judge who scheduled 2 trials this summer in outstanding felony cases. Brooks is serving 6 consecutive life sentences plus an additional 762 years for the November 21, 2021 parade attack. Brooks killed 6 people and injured dozens more when he drove his SUV into the holiday parade crowd. Brooks represented himself in that case and quickly gained national attention, largely due to his daily courtroom antics, near constant interruptions, inability to stifle emotions, and knack for getting himself kicked out of the courtroom. Brooks, 41, has filed a notice to appeal his conviction in the parade crash case. The most recent felony charges Brooks faces are unrelated to the parade crash case. On June 26, Brooks is set to face trial for running over the mother of his child with his SUV, an incident that precipitated the parade crash. On July 10th, he's set to go on trial on weapons charges, so that was a different one. Brooks will not be representing himself this time around. The first case set for trial this coming July was filed back in July 2020 before the Waukesha case crash even occurred. Prosecutors say Brooks fired a gun at his nephew during an argument. He's charged with 2 counts of second-degree recklessly endangering safety, use of dangerous weapon, and possession of a firearm by a felon. 2 other cases against Brooks will be combined with 1 trial in June. The second case was filed in November 2021, the same month and year of the parade crash. Brooks is charged with resisting an officer, felony bail jumping, domestic abuse, and battery. According to prosecutors, Brooks ran over his ex-girlfriend, Erica Patterson, in a gas station parking lot. According to a complaint, Brooks punched Patterson when she refused to get in his vehicle. When Patterson tried to walk away, he allegedly ran her over as she set off on foot through the parking lot. Patterson suffered tire tracks on her leg and a bloodied face. According to Waukesha police, that incident occurred just moments before Brooks plowed that same SUV into the parade crowd. In the third case, filed in December 2021, charges against Brooks include victim intimidation, witness intimidation, and felony bail jumping. According to prosecutors, Brooks tried to intimidate Patterson so she would refuse to cooperate with investigators in the gas station attack. He also tried to get her to put money up for his bail. Of course he did. Brooks' mother eventually posted his $1,000 bail, and on November 16, 2021, he appeared before a Waukesha County judge via phone for failure to pay child support. Brooks was then released on his own recognizance. Really? 5 days later, the fight between Brooks and Patterson at the gas station led to Brooks storming off and attacking the parade crowd. So that's what's going on. That's what's going on. And the wheels of justice turn mighty slowly. But more importantly, this is what I want to know, Sparkles. This is what I want to know. Did you get that horse hornet out of your house that was attacking you this morning? I really need to know that. And guess what? It's been 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes into it. And there's no... Good. I'm glad you got him out. We still don't have... We still don't have a Darrell Brooks. Still don't got it. I mean, it's kind of crazy, you all. we can only imagine what is going on. Can only imagine what's going on. All right. So all right, while we are waiting for Brooks to come back, yes, he's back in court again. This is a motions hearing ahead of a trial that will take place later this year, probably in summer. Has it started? Has it started? Huh. He's in prison for life, but he still has more charges to get charged for. So he has more he has more years to stack up, and it will be the same judge. Yes, it will. But he will not be representing himself this time. He is not representing himself. He is being represented. So that's why I'm so interested in this. I'm interested in seeing, does he change his behavior? Has he learned anything? Who is this lawyer who is representing him? What's the lawyer like? Is this lawyer able to handle him? Like, if he finally found a lawyer that can handle him, wow, that is some kind of lawyer. You know what I mean? I don't think he will change his behavior either, but I'm also very interested in seeing. Yes, yes, Sparkles. So that's why this is all very interesting to me. You know, she's the judge that gets they're getting a muzzle duct tape, wheelchair, padded metal cage wheel. They probably do. I'm not kidding. They probably do have all of those devices available. I've seen them wheel people into the courtroom, with like beekeepers masks on and, strapped into a wheelchair. Seen it. There was that one guy, Bryce Rhodes, I think his name was, who literally spit at a judge. So they had to put, like a beekeeper's mask on his face. He also kicked his attorney. So he went through a few lawyers. So they probably, and when you got a guy like this, he is so unpredictable, so out of control. And, you think about this. Yeah, I'd like to hear that too. You think about the, the spectrum of behaviors, right? You've got your really well behaving defendants, right? People who act really, really like they're perfect. They're on perfect behavior. Think of like a Chad Daybell, right? He looks like he's just going to be a Boy Scout. He's showing you that he is a perfect guy. He is a Boy Scout, right? Then you get somebody like Adam Montgomery, who, yep, he was sure decked out, PKC. I think we might be talking about the same. That guy that jumped over the bench and attacked. Yeah, he ended up getting decked out when he had to come back in. Yep, that's for sure. So then you get somebody like an Adam Montgomery who, really tries his hardest to pretend that he's under control. Yeah, I got everything under control. I'm a good guy. He walks into the courtroom, he struts in, feeling all full of himself. I'm gonna prove my innocence, judge. And then he doesn't show up to court. Not for one freaking day of his daughter's murder trial. And now he's going to be sentenced because he was found guilty. And you can tell that he's just an asshole. That guy is just a freaking asshole, right? And then you get a guy like Darrell Brooks. And so when you compare people like Adam Montgomery and Darrell Brooks, you could see that Adam Montgomery is somewhat controllable. Like, he's somewhat predictable. Darrell Brooks is not is much less predictable. So they have to have everything ready. They have to think of all the possible scenarios. And luckily, these people have been dealing with these types of people for a really long time. So they know, even though he's predictable, hey, Leave It to Beaver, nice to see you. So even though, he might be unpredictable, they've probably seen all the different types of behaviors that an unpredictable person can bring, and they can make themselves ready for it. But in some of the smaller courthouses and the smaller courtrooms, sometimes you can see that they are not prepared and they are not ready and they're floundering. And I do have to tell you, I'm a little bit flustered in a way by what I'm seeing in the courthouse in Massachusetts with the Karen Reed trial. I don't know if any of you are watching that, but the judge is constantly having to lawyer. The judge is doing the objections herself. The judge is the one who is interrupting when either the prosecution or the defense is hearsaying, or I don't know. I just see it's just a different flow, a different vibe. The judge is almost stressing me out because she's constantly like sighing heavily into the microphone. And I'm slightly tempted to switch to that trial right now because it's happening at the moment. And we're not getting anywhere right now with Darrell Brooks. So I don't know how y'all feel about that. But I'm just getting kind of frustrated sitting here waiting for Darrell Brooks. But I definitely want to watch it when it comes on, if it does come on. Yes. Let's watch this until Darrell Brooks comes up. This is live. So we might have missed a bunch. Yeah, I am still on the fence about guilt or not guilt. I'm waiting for everything to play out in court. I have the same feeling, Sparkles. Please, in order to hit the thumbs up, thank you very much.
Firefighter Becker, just my own clarification. You testified earlier that first arriving on scene and first spoke with Ms. Reed, she indicated that there was some statements that she said there were some statements that she did not meet, correct?
Correct. Suicidal statements.
And so, exactly. So my question is, that was in reference to the suicidal statements she had made prior to your arrival, correct?
Correct.
Not to any subsequent statements, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Rona. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Lucy, I've been wondering where you are. It's so good to see you, and
My
thank
pleasure.
you so much.
I wanted to go back to
I've missed you.
one piece of testimony that you offered on direct examination, if I may.
Sure.
You had, in response to a question from the prosecutor about the medical history and your question to Ms. Reed about whether she had had any alcohol to drink. I believe your answer today was she denied having drank alcohol the night before.
At the time that she was, she could have. I don't know if she drank alcohol the night before, but at that time, I asked if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
I'm sorry, if I just didn't hear.
Yeah,
the
you
answer.
need to keep your voice up, sir. Speak
Okay.
directly into
Sorry.
the microphone.
So
Yes,
I asked her if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
Oh, if she had any drugs.
Well,
or
if she'd
alcohol.
taken any drugs or alcohol, she said no.
Did you specify a time period?
I just assumed it'd be in the last few hours for the reason why we were there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm sure if she had alcohol days prior, but for the reason why we were there.
Okay. So was it your understanding that the two of you had an understanding of what you were asking?
Sure.
Objection, move this.
Yeah, yeah. So the objection sustained. It's stricken. Ask the question differently, Ms. Giannetti.
Thank you, Rona. All right. So I guess with regard to your intent and your state of mind when you were asking that question, you were asking, had you taken any drugs or alcohol within the last few hours? That's what you meant to ask?
Objection.
So the objection sustained.
What did you specifically ask?
So when I ask a patient if any drugs or alcohol, I'm talking about at that point in time, but an hour before, 2 hours before, not days before, weeks before.
Okay.
So-
And this was at 6:40 in the morning?
Correct.
Did you smell any alcohol on her at that time?
I did not.
Okay. You would agree that she did tell you at some point that she had alcohol the night before, correct?
No.
All right. So this is now, what's today, May 3rd of 2024?
Correct.
And this happened back in January, on January 29th of 2022?
Correct.
You were interviewed by a Trooper Michael Proctor on February 14th of 2022. Do you recall that?
I recall meeting with him, yes.
And February 14th of 2022 would have been a little bit more than 2 weeks after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Your memory of what Karen Reed told you about whether she had anything to drink the night before would have been much better on February 14th of 2022 when you were talking to Trooper Michael Proctor than it would be today, correct?
Correct.
Because your memory doesn't get better over time, correct?
Certain circumstances, sure.
All right. And with regard to whether Karen had indicated that she took any drugs, you told Trooper Proctor she said that she had not, correct?
Correct.
With regard to whether she had had alcohol the night before, you told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that she did consume alcohol last night, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to see a sidebar on this. Please bring that with you, please.
And she calls sidebars at odd times too. Look, I have no problem with this judge. It's just, I just find the, I don't know. It's just, again, anybody who's listening, who's new, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I just observe a lot of trials. Okay. And I just haven't seen a judge behave this way. And I don't think she's siding, favoring either side, at least that I can tell. Leave It to Beaver does have a problem with her.
With
And that's
permission,
fine.
I'll repeat the question.
Sure.
You told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that Karen had told you that she did consume alcohol the previous night, correct?
If that's in his notes,
Well, is your memory exhausted as to whether you told him that?
I don't recall.
If you saw his report with your statements in it, would that refresh your memory?
Sure.
It's a two-page report. I'll give you both, actually. It's a two-page report. I'll give you both pages, but I have highlighted a line on the second page, so I would direct you to that. May I approach?
Yes. And take your time reading it, sir.
Yes, yeah. And please read it silently to yourself and look up at me when you're done.
Yeah, extra is a good word for it, Bieber. With all the sighing and like before there's any objection, she makes a ruling. And she shows her
So I did say.
So, Mr. Becker, a couple of things. Wait for a question,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but also
Sorry.
you have to keep your voice up.
Okay.
I'm close to you and I'm having trouble hearing you. Most
Okay.
of the jurors are further away.
And the way this works is I have to collect that from you and then ask you a question, okay?
So
I may
gets
approach-
irritated
Yes.
very easily.
Having reviewed that document, does that refresh your memory as to whether or not Karen Reed, or strike that? Having reviewed that report, does that refresh your memory as to the fact that you?
Does that refresh your memory?
Does that refresh your memory?
it does.
See?
And so did you tell Trooper Proctor on February 14th that Karen Reed had told you on January 29th that she had consumed alcohol the night before that?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say that when you were listening to her talk at times, that her speech was very rapid?
Correct.
And particularly when she had said the words, you know, is he dead? Is he dead? She would repeat it repetitively, correct?
Correct.
And she was fixated on that, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the last interaction that she spoke about with whom you thought she said her husband, she didn't give you any detail about that, correct?
She did not.
You don't know whether it was an in-person communication?
That wasn't my position to ask more details about that.
And I'm not criticizing you, sir. I'm just trying to get to what your knowledge was in terms of
Right.
you got from her. So
No,
she didn't specify as to whether it was a phone conversation.
she did not.
She didn't specify whether it was a text message exchange back and forth.
She did not.
And she didn't specify whether it was an angry voicemail that she left, correct?
She did not.
No further questions. Thank you.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Darrell Brooks is obviously fashionably late. How late is fashionably late in the mind of Darrell Brooks?
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. All right, Mr. Becker or Firefighter Becker, you are all set, sir. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you. Yes, you can leave that right where it is. Thank you, sir. Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Then may we approach?
Sure.
Exactly. He's a sovereign citizen. He doesn't cotton to any rules of any state. He's his own state, right? So they went on the viewing today of the crime scene in the Karen Reed case. And I was watching Emily D. Baker commentate on it earlier, and there was kind of a funny moment where, are they starting? I see a picture. It looks like they're starting something. Something is starting. We've got a pretty fountain. Oh, should I maybe press play? I have pressed play. They just excused are you seeing a different view? And are you seeing something different than I'm seeing in law? Because I'm on the Law and Crime feed. This is what I'm seeing. You do see him enter in a wheelchair. Okay. Oh, he's in a wheelchair. So they strapped him down. Let's see that. There he is. Is he ill? He's being so friendly. Look how happy he looks. It's a different judge. That's weird. Unless huh. Yeah, I understand. They have to keep him restrained. But I thought it because the report I just read said it would be a different judge. I mean, sorry, it would be the same judge, and I feel bad for reporting that to y'all. But it looked like there was a different judge there. So we shall see. That is a very lovely watercolor that they have it focused on. I guess we're basically waiting for the judge. The trial starts next week. Interesting. So we'll have to see what his behavior is like today and what's at stake. He looked to be in good spirits. So for anyone who's just joining, this is a motions hearing about a trial that will be underway. Yeah, Leave It to Beaver. I thought she was running for like chief judge. I forget what it's called. It's like president judge or something like that. I noticed that the last couple of times I've seen her presiding over a case, she started wearing false eyelashes. And I was like, oh, Judge Dorow, you don't need false eyelashes. You don't need false eyelashes. You're attractive without those false eyelashes. And they seem to bother you. But anyway, so this motions hearing is in regard to a case. Yeah, she's beautiful. Is in regard to a case that is somewhat related to the Waukesha Parade Massacre, which he's been convicted for 6 life sentences. Before that massacre took place, but on the same day, he was in a gas station parking lot having an argument with his ex-girlfriend and the mother of his child. And he tried to get her into the car and she refused. And so he hit her. This is the allegation. He hit her with his fist. And then she took off running and he tried to run over her and she ended up with tire marks on her legs. And then he took off out of that gas station parking lot and proceeded into the parade route and killed all those people. And because that precipitated what he did in the parade, she was a witness in his trial. And it was really uncomfortable and harrowing to watch him as a pro se litigant representing himself cross-examine this young woman. He was already hostile. One of the reasons he was interesting to watch, and it was hard to take your eyes off of him during his own trial, is because he was so clearly angry and hostile at everything. He combated everything. Everything was something to combat. And so then he had his ex-girlfriend up there on the stand, and he was being extremely hostile and condescending and victim blaming to her. Basically, making it her fault that he would put his hands on her, right? Bieber says it was one of the most fascinating, if not the most fascinating trial I've ever watched. Yeah, because of his behavior. I was actually amazed. I did a couple of videos on it, a couple on each of my channels. And they're some of the most viewed videos I've ever done, aside from Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Really interesting. It was exhausting to watch, but it was also interesting. And I know that I always get onto this tangent, but that's exactly the kind of content that the algorithm loves. It's that kind that makes you uncomfortable and keeps you going. It's like it lasts for a long time, because his amount of rage was sustained over hours. And it was fascinating to watch that judge manage him with his fort building and his constant objections and his constant interruptions and his constant he intentionally intimidated her. He sat there at his desk and stared her down. Just stared her down. The Trevor Summers trial was similar. He was pro se and he had the victim get up on the stand. Oh, wow. Well, there was another pro se trial coming up that keeps getting pushed. I'm forgetting the name at the moment. If Chopper is in chat, you'll remember the name. Jim, the guy in Vegas who killed allegedly killed a journalist. I'm looking forward to that one too. He's pro se. But yeah, Robert Tellers, exactly. Pro se litigants are super interesting to me. I have a bunch of videos on this channel of a pro se hearing that is insane between two YouTubers. And it keeps you interested because you see sometimes when a person represents themselves, they represent themselves because they think they are the smartest person they know. They think no one knows their case better. No one knows the law better. No one knows how to represent their case in the law better. And Chopper, I know that he's a real attorney. I do know that he's a real attorney, but he's not a litigator that I know of. But also, he is so disordered. He is so disordered that he gets in his emotional baggage gets in his own way of being able to helpfully represent himself. So it's almost even more interesting to watch a lawyer in a murder case represent himself. You know what I mean? Sarah Boone, it was supposed to be in May, but it keeps getting pushed back. I think another lawyer has stepped down off of her case. It just keeps I think it's set for July right now, Cheryl. The Trevor Summers one, is that the kid that was just running around with the dreads on top of his head that was running around the court? Was insane. It was extremely hard to watch. What's the hardest for me, and this is what happened in the YouTuber cases, okay? The hardest for me is when an abuser is sitting there grilling their actual victim. And that's exactly what was happening in the in Rocket Man versus Melissa Jade. Is this absolute sadistic woman grilling a woman that she's been victimizing on YouTube for 2 years. And it is so hard to watch. Hey, just me. Yeah.
State of Wisconsin versus
All right.
Darrell Brooks.
They're finally
21
starting.
CF
And it is a
4596,
different judge.
21 CF 502. Appearances.
Matthew Tarbinson and Shelley Grosso appear for the state. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Attorney Russell Jones on behalf of Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks appears in person. I appear via Zoom. Good afternoon, Judge.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. When Mr. Brooks first got here, my deputies alerted us to the fact that he wanted to speak with Mr. Jones. Given the fact that Mr. Jones is via Zoom and Mr. Brooks is here in person, the way we accommodated that was everyone left the courtroom, including the spectators in the gallery, the person who is here filming for the media, and obviously all the parties and my staff, except for the deputies. For security reasons, of course, they had to stay with Mr. Brooks. So I allowed them to have a conversation. I wasn't paying attention to how much time it was. It might have been, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. I allowed Mr. Brooks to have that conversation with Mr. Jones. And then after Mr. Jones alerted the lawyers, I think, and my deputies alerted us, we all came back in. Is that correct, Mr. Jones?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we are here for, it was supposed to be a motion hearing and a final pretrial on these matters. They are set for trial on Monday, May 6th, so that's just a couple days from now. At our last date on January 18th, the state indicated they thought they would be filing an amended information and an other acts motion. The defense also thought they may have been filing some motions, so we set this for about 90 minutes. I set deadlines for that all motions were to be filed by March 22nd and April 19th for the responses. I will note that nothing has been filed from either side as far as any substantive motions. Motions in limine were filed, I just believe, by the defense, and they appeared to be standard. So there is nothing to proceed on as far as any substantive motions. Do we remain in a trial posture, Mr. Jones?
We do, Judge, and with respect to the motion filings, we were anticipating potentially the state filing, and it would have been a response to the other acts. Presumably, they're not seeking that since they didn't file that. So that's why we had nothing else to file other than our standard motions.
Okay, and nothing from the state?
Correct. I anticipate filing another acts motion. I thought about it. The prejudice hurdle would be extraordinarily high in this particular case. And when I gave it more thought, the state didn't anticipate using that other acts because of the prejudicial nature of those other acts, unless there was a defense that triggered the high amount of relevancy to those other acts. And I think that would just as likely happen if the door is potentially open by one of those defenses being argued in this particular trial. And so rather than file the motion, if the defense becomes that this is an accident or some sort, then I may raise the issue at that point. So, but I did not file another acts motion. That's correct.
Okay. All right. So we'll deal with those issues if they arise during trial. Maybe they won't. So obviously we have some special issues associated with this case.
Special.
Jury selection is going to be our biggest hurdle. What I have thought, just on my own, and I don't know if the parties have thought about this. I don't know if anybody would think that a court trial would be a preferable way to go to avoid any of those potential issues that would arise with having a jury and trying to seat a jury with a case that has not, this case is not notorious, but certainly Mr. Brooks's other case is notorious. And we certainly will do our best to seat a fair and impartial jury. But that's just off the top of my head. I think that might be the best way, but of course, Mr. Brooks, that is ultimately his decision on whether it would be a court trial or a jury trial. So I just throw that out there. Nobody's requested that at this point. There has been a request for a jury trial, so we will plan on that, but it is just some food for thought, that it may be a way to allow for evidence to be presented without the potential tangential issues that would arise with a jury. So that's just something to think about. In addition to that, if I'm going to go with on the assumption at this point that we are having a jury trial, I have not prepared any written information. I will prepare that over the weekend and give it to the parties, and we can certainly talk about it. But I think we have to address it. No one is going to pretend that we're going to introduce Mr. Brooks and no one's going to know who he is. So obviously it's not going to be, one of the standard questions I asked during voir dire is, has anyone heard anything about this
Very
case
practical.
or about this defendant or had any opinion as to anything? That may foreclose us from seating any of the people that we bring in for voir dire right off the bat, because it was a big deal. The Waukesha case was a big deal. So I will prepare something. Do the parties have thoughts? Or do you want to prepare something as well, and we can kind of put something together as far as a preliminary statement to the jurors. I mean, obviously advising them that this needs to be, you will only judge this case on this evidence, and, you know, asking those questions if they can be fair and impartial and put out of their minds anything that they may know about Mr. Brooks. Each side can submit something if they would like. I'm kicking myself that I didn't think to tell everybody to do this ahead of today's date, so we could have worked it out this afternoon rather than doing it on Monday, but that was my error. I probably should have thought of that, and I did not.
No
So
court so
if the
far.
parties want to do that, they can do that. I will have some language that I work up as well to address that. Other than that, I just talked with a sergeant from the sheriff's department. In the past, Mr. Brooks has been transported directly here and not really held in the jail, even as a waiting position, until he's brought directly to court. And then generally he's whisked away. And I've got some concerns that if we're going to be in trial, I don't know what the situation would be in the jail, but I have alerted a sergeant in the sheriff's department to my concerns to make sure that Mr. Brooks is going to be here every morning for trial, that we're not going to end up with him being housed somewhere else. But I don't know that's not something that I get involved in generally. I did just want to put it on someone's radar to make sure that we have no delays when it comes to that. Is there anything that, I think your motions in limine were pretty standard, Mr. Jones. So you've both tried many cases in front of me. Everybody knows generally how I run things and how things work. So I think they're standard motions in limine. So they were along with the rules of how I do things. Does the state have anything they want to specifically address on the record this afternoon?
Your Honor, the only thing that I want to address is I do anticipate filing an amended information. I have for a long time been very clear that if this proceeded to trial, that I would file charges of intimidation based on the calls that were made on particular days. And so I anticipate having a total of 6 charges for intimidation of a victim in the amended information. I will get that filed as soon as possible, but I have explained that both to Attorney Jones. I've explained that to previous counsel numerous times in communications on this case. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I think on the charge in the underlying domestic violence case, we are going to be proceeding on amended charge of first degree recklessly endangering safety rather than second degree recklessly endangering safety. So we will have those charges amended. And if the court wishes, I can prepare the jury instructions over the weekend, if that helps with regards to the charges.
Okay.
And then my only other question is, would the court prefer having information with both cases joined in a single information, or having 2 informations with 2 cases? I can prepare it either way.
That is a CCAP protect issue that is above my pay grade.
Okay.
I think they probably need to be filed in each case. I'm looking at the back of my clerk's head.
What's above a
And she's
judge?
indicating,
judge's
yes,
pay
that
grade?
would be better. So separate for
Okay.
the separate cases. Mr. Jones, do you want to be heard as to what Mr. Torbensen's statements or your
Sure.
own issues?
Yeah, let me respond to Mr. Torbenson first, then I have a few things I'd like to address. Mr. Torbenson indicated if it does not resolve with a plea, he would file an amended information and bring all the charges he thinks that he can prove. And that's not news to me, and it's not news to prior counsel. I have requested for Mr. Torbenson, I know I have it in writing somewhere, but I've made a request of him to put his offer in writing because Mr. Brooks wants it in writing in an email. So you could just send me one today with that discussion. Mr. Brooks had some issues with potentially discovery at Boscobel. I'm going to provide him written or all paper discovery that I physically can get my hands on and give it to him also Monday, even though we sent it to him back in March. And I'm not saying Mr. Brooks is wrong. I'm sure the institution may have lost it, but we can deal with that. I have it all. I'm prepared. The one request, I made 2 requests. Number one, I think given the nature of this and the panel and the background, it would make sense if we started maybe at 9 o'clock. I have 2 quick appearances at 8:15 and 8:30 that I'd like to clear off. If we come in at 9, obviously I think if the 3 of us get together and decide how to deal with a joint statement, and I would prefer it to be issued by the court rather than the state or me, I think we could accomplish that in probably about a half an hour's time. the other thing I'm going to make this request, and I don't know how much the court has the authority to do this, other than that you can make a request to the jail, but your request would probably be received better than mine, even though I've made inquiries. I know, or at least I've learned now, Mr. Brooks might be moving back and forth to the institution. I understand we can't control that. If at the end of every day of trial, I can have a deputy keep him in the bullpen for some period of time, half an hour, so I can at least meet with him in the bullpen, or if we can break at 4:30, so we can have someone till 5 o'clock, so I can have some time with Mr. Brooks after each day of trial. It may not be needed. I might say, hey, today that we don't need it, but I'd like that little bit of cushion because he's going to be physically removed, and I won't have the opportunity to do that. So maybe we break a little bit earlier than we normally would, so I would have that on days I might need it. Just sort of thinking ahead.
Sure, I think we can accomplish that.
You know, because I want as much communication with Mr. Brooks, obviously, as possible, but I understand I'm bound by the executive, or the executive branch in their.
He seems like a lawyer who can
Judge,
handle
it's probably too
Darrell.
late for this as well, but I'm just taking in the size of your courtroom physically, and I'm wondering if there's any chance we could switch courtrooms just for jury selection even, because I imagine we're going to have a rather large panel for jury selection.
What I anticipated doing, and I think it probably is too late to plan a switch now. What I would anticipate is I can get 35 in. It's tight, but we can do it. So we can have 35 people in here. And then if we are able to, let's say, seat 8 out of the 35, we will put them back in our jury room and bring a fresh panel of 35 over and do it in that way. I don't have any idea how long this is going to take, given, as I said, the notoriousness of the Waukesha case. So I wouldn't want to guess that one of the bigger courtrooms is going to accommodate it and still doesn't, and have everybody move for those purposes. So I think we just kind of get as many as we can and then start with a new group. So it may take longer than usual. So we may do a couple process of picking a jury in piecemeal fashion. But we should be able to accomplish it in that way. I think if we do run into issues, that may be the best way. So what I'm hearing from everybody is Mr. Torbenson has offered to put together the jury instructions. I appreciate that. And we will all work on what our idea of a statement looks like as far as what to tell the jury about this case, and that it is only this case they are to determine. Not anything else they may know or heard or think or believe they know, or any judgments they've made. And we will question people about that specifically. It's not going to be a general run-of-the-mill, I assume you haven't heard anything about this. You haven't? Yeah. So we will take it from there. So everybody's going to bring that statement, and Mr. Torbenson's going to do the jury instructions. Is there anything more from the defense?
Yeah, and Judge, I have a scheduled meeting with Mr. Brooks tomorrow at 2:30. Apparently that's not going to occur because he won't be at the jail. I'm efforting to get a meeting with him at his institution when we.
I don't know that for sure.
Well, Mr. Brooks is fairly confident of that. Either way, I've got the one set up at the jail. I'm going to try and set up the one at the institution, and hopefully, one of them occurs.
Okay.
And if he can be brought over at 8 a.m. even, I will try and get down there. I mean, I'm just saying, once he's in your bullpen, I think that's, a place that makes it easier for me to get to him. But we'll stay in communication and do what we can, I guess.
Okay. All right. Anything further from the state?
The only thing I want to add is that
Uh-oh. What happened? I don't know what's happening. Everybody in the long crime chat is saying the same thing. What happened? What happened? What happened? Is Darrell pulling a...
To get to him, but we'll stay in communication and do what we can, I guess.
Okay. All right. Anything further from the state?
The only thing I want to add is that I did tell the court and counsel and chambers, I have a homicide case.
Ooh. And you can see shadows in the glass. They're having technical issues. So while we don't have sound, I will answer Marie's question. He's not getting a new trial on the Waukesha Parade massacre. He is sitting trial for different charges related to his ex-girlfriend
I can't hear. What?
for an
The internet?
incident.
Oh, okay. So it's just the internet's down.
Oh, the internet was down. So these are charges related to an incident that happened just before he committed all those murders in the parade. Your cat is very, very sensitive, Chopper. So I have to say, so it sounds like what they're considering is doing a jury trial. I'm sorry, a bench trial, which would mean that the judge is the finder of fact rather than the jury being the finder of fact, which means they wouldn't go through jury selection.
It says an unknown error, so now it's letting me start again. Let's see if Russ pops up.
I personally feel that a bench trial would be better for him because the jury pool there is completely saturated with
Mr.
knowledge
Jones via Zoom.
about him. His behavior.
We're still connecting.
But yeah, they're moving forward as if there will be a jury. They're impaneling a jury. That's what the discussion is. But they've also considered whether there should be a bench trial instead, and the judge has discussed writing up an information
Hi,
about
back.
that.
I can see you.
Yes.
You're muted. I don't know if you can hear me.
Your mute is on.
Oh.
Oh.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I automatically ended up muted, but Mr. Brooks pointed out to me that I could unmute. So now we can hear
Yes.
you and you can hear us.
Brooks being
You're back.
All right. So
Brooks knows all.
The last thing I heard was Mr. Torbenson saying he has a homicide trial, has an emergency stay, and then he froze.
right.
I think it's unlikely for the stay to be lifted, and this should be the case that can go on Monday.
Okay. All right. All right, then I think we just stand ready to go on Monday, barring something else happening. Mr. Brooks, I don't know where you're going to be, but I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Mr. Jones said.
They're still having internet issues, but it looks like they're ending things. So this trial will start on Monday, but that will be jury selection. I usually don't start really paying a huge amount of attention to streaming trials until the opening arguments start. But I am interested in this trial, so I will probably start paying attention to it and making game time decisions about whether, what takes precedent. Daybell, Reed, this, others, and things like that. And for anyone who's confused, the reason he's going on trial again is because he allegedly, and it seems likely, that before he drove into the Waukesha Parade and killed 6 people and injured many more, he got into a physical altercation with his ex-girlfriend. And that's really what caused him to get enraged and drive into the parade. But what happened with the girlfriend was they were in a gas station parking lot. And they got into a domestic violence argument basically, and he hit her, and then she took off running, and he tried to hit her with his car, and she ended up with tire marks on her legs. And then he proceeded to screech out of the parking lot and into, and yes, they are off air. So, and all of the other trials have gone off air at this point. So we don't really have anything live to cover at this point. So yeah, if only, Solo, if only. And yeah, Chopper, that was the thing that got me the most, in all honesty, was those grannies. He drove right into some dancing grannies. How do you drive into dancing grannies? Old women. Old women. So I'm going to close out this stream. I want to reward Anonymous Lucy. I want to show you all something kind of funny and silly that I saw on Emily D. Baker's stream earlier, because they were watching the jury view of for the Karen Reed trial, and they saw like a hot mic moment. And it was kind of funny. It was kind of funny how it all happened. I wanted to see if I could catch it here and show it to you all, because it was kind of a funny moment. Is it here? Where is it? Yeah, here it is. I'm catching up to it. I think it's right here. Okay.
The things that have been taken out of the car. I remember the prosecution said to focus on the center console.
Now, as she's talking now, listen to what you hear on the microphone, and also watch the subtitles on kind of the top of the screen. Watch this.
I don't know if the focus on which is, I appreciate that they photographed it. I don't know if it's because of the way you would reverse the car. I don't know.
The car.
They took all the car tracking data, including GPS, including the backup camera. They took all of that out.
Oh.
Something to do, right? Yeah, exactly.
May get a guys, tall guy.
I always love when people are just chatting. It's like somebody's streaming this with audio, y'all. But okay. I believe there's a test with the backup camera. We'll see. That looks like a still photographer with a monopod. The back of the car. The removed taillight. Like the whole taillight casing.
Yeah, but I wouldn't touch it.
That's what I was pointing to earlier. And that's rusted. This car has been, I would imagine, in impound since this happened. So, I don't know where the rest of the...
Keep watching.
I mean... Okay. That's the car. There is a curb right at that part of the house, but it looks like the curb ends as you get over to where the fire hydrant is.
Like my parents watched the live stream and shit.
Looks like the curb ends as you get over to where the
Look what it says on the screen that they're saying in the audio on the lot. She turns back to it too. Watch.
fire hydrant is.
Like my parents watched the live stream and shit. I'll tune in. I can't listen to the guy just fucking talk. Yeah, it's a spell. Shit. It's like, this. You lost it. Yeah, right.
Are they talking about the prosecutor? Who's talking about the prosecutor? I can't fucking listen to that guy talk. Who's talking about the prosecutor? What is happening? Okay. Emily, did you gain your audio up? Oh, yeah, our audio's gained up. Who's talking about the prosecutor that's out at this scene right now? Did you hear that? Oh my God, I'm going to back this up. The closed captioning is catching it. Somebody said, yeah, I've been watching the live streams, but I can't fucking listen to that guy talk. I don't know which one they're talking about, to be fair.
Hot mic moments, y'all. Hot mic moments.
That's what I say. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, he's a dick. He's a kook, but he is himself. It's like, you know, I just, like my parents watch the live stream and shit. And I'll tune in. I can't listen to the guy just fucking talk. Yeah, it's a spell. Shit.
Who's a dick? Why is the tea being spilt?
Yeah, right.
Is that it? Okay.
That's why I love court coverage, you guys. It's you never know what's going to happen. It's, you know, the stakes are high. Tensions are at their utmost, and people aren't supposed to be it's probably the way the subtitles are, the AI is picking up the words and stuff like that. It's just funny to me how things like this can happen, you know, when you're supposed to be at your most serious. You know what I mean? Anyway, so that was a little special moment for Anonymous, who gifted 5 memberships today. It was nice to see you again, and everybody here. Thank you very, very, very much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay tuned for continued coverage of the courts here on Disorder in the Court. Remember, I have another channel called Checkmate Humanity where I post thoughts of the day every few days and other coverage of how the algorithm manipulates us, basically. So especially in true crime, how I hate how the algorithm manipulates true crime. It pisses me off. So that's what I talk about there. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Have a fantastic weekend, and remember to be kind wherever you go. Bye.